Hey, welcome everyone for the MMA sixth round post fight show. I screwed that up doing my vivisection introduction, so it's already fucked. But
No, it's
welcome
really
everyone to the
good.
sixth round post fight show for UFC London. Yeah, I didn't do any of the weird hand shit, which totally threw me off too. So it's just a shit show all around. But we're here to talk about this Manuwa versus Anderson card in London that just finished up, and I am joined by Eddie Mercado. And Kid Nate is once again off doing other stuff. I don't know. He can't be bothered anymore.
He's got
But
his own. He has his own things to deal with besides
that's
face
right.
punching.
And so this ended up, I don't know. The main card really saved this card because getting to the main card up until that Joe Duffy Reza Madadi fight, and even that was just kind of a one-sided beating. The Bahosa Stewart and Johnson Omalanchik fights really slowed the hell down out of this card.
Yeah, it really did. The prelims. I mean, if it wasn't for Mark Diakese, I mean, I probably would have fell asleep. I mean, it just wasn't. I don't know, but I thought Scott and Askham was pretty good, to be honest.
Well, the
It
thing is,
started kind of strong.
yeah, when you have a lot of decisions like that, and two of them are really, really just slow, ugly fights, even fights that would normally be fine, Edwards versus Luke, Scott versus Askham, those would be fine fights, but you put them on like in a whole run of decisions where a couple of them are really boring, and then they just all blend together into this sort of
A smear of just meh.
yeah, exactly. But the main card picked up really well. Amir Khani versus Allen was awesome. Vera versus Pickett was super depressing. And then, Gunnar Nelson, Alan Joban, and Jimmy Manuwa, Corey Anderson were both fun finishes. So it's hard for me and when you don't have the FS1 pacing to deal with, it's hard for me to hate on it.
Yeah, that main card was phenomenal. And even like the Pickett loss, like yeah, it was still like rewarding because he got kicked in the head, right? So it was like at least there's that. Like no matter what, like no matter who I'm for or against, whenever there's like that head kick knockout, it kind of trumps everything in my book.
Yeah, well, and I mean, if nothing else, it's something to talk about. It's something for you to really like focus on, and you really you really feel about it. Like at least you're feeling deeply. I'd rather be emotionally invested in the fight and its outcome than just be like, oh God, thankfully that's over.
Like that Bahos fight. Good God.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
It really
Let's
was.
start at the top and work our way down. Jimmy Manuwa knocking out Corey Anderson. I was pretty surprised that Corey Anderson could not get any reads on takedown entries against Manuwa, who has not been the best at staying upright. I mean, he's not a great wrestler, but Manuwa's distance control looked great. Anderson couldn't get entries, and then the hand speed was just like there was no compare at all.
But it was like Anderson would find his way inside, but like not know what to do when he got there, or he was just a little too surprised that he actually got there that he wasn't able to pull the trigger on anything.
Yeah.
Man, but did he get slept? Jesus
He did.
Christ!
And the thing that got missed too is just a couple seconds before that left hook knocked him out, Anderson went in for another takedown and got stung with, I don't know if it was a jab or a hook now. I think it was a short left hook right on the chin, and he dropped him to a knee. And commentary didn't talk about it, didn't get mentioned, but it just stopped Anderson cold. And I think after that, he may have just been on autopilot where like he's jumped up and he's still moving around, but his brain was just not there. And the next hook that Mano hit him with just turned the lights out totally.
Yeah, well, like from the angle that the camera was at, we couldn't really tell what happened. It kind of looked like he just slipped.
Yeah.
But, damn. Moments later, he was face down unconscious.
Yep.
It seemed like he came to rather quickly, but Anderson did pretty well. I thought he came out and was doing really good moving and kind of mixing things up and not giving Manuwa any looks to capitalize on. But man, it kind of just fell to shit really
Well,
quickly.
when your hands are that fast, you don't need that many looks. I mean, the speed with which Manuwa hits those left hooks is just it's so much faster than anything that Anderson was prepared for. Honestly, like that kind of speed, a lot of fighters, especially in something like Manuwa, against somebody like Manuwa who hits that hard and has hands that fast. No matter who you've been training with, no matter who you've been working with in the fight, you need a lot of time to adjust to that speed difference, and he didn't get it.
Yeah.
So big setback for Anderson, and for Manuwa, it's exactly the right fight. He needed to continue actual momentum to another, title contender type matchup.
And it also kind of really draws a line in the sand about where the top of the division is versus the rest of the division. Like the top 5, top 4, I mean, they're legit and they could probably beat each other on any given day. And then you have the rest that, like 5 to 15 are just like this hodgepodge of inconsistent guys who just can't quite put it all together and break into that top 5.
After losing Bader and Krylov recently, Anderson's ranked 6. And like
That's
that
crazy.
line is hard drawn now.
Shogun's number 5.
I know. The Shogun versus Manuwa is probably the next fight to make too, with Manuwa getting that win. I mean, I don't want to see Shogun in it necessarily, but I feel like it is the action fight that's easy to book right now.
You have to book that one. Glover's fighting Gustafsson, and I'm not even sure Manuwa would fight Gustafsson again since they're training together. Yeah. And Johnson's fighting DC, and the winner of that will probably fight John Jones if John Jones is ever stops being John Jones.
Yeah.
But it's Shogun, and it's sad because I don't want to see Manuwa fight anyone below him. Like he should only be fighting people above.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like Glover's going to be sticking around in the top 5 for long.
May be the case, but Glover's is still, at least he's still legit top tier talent. He still has enough left in the tank to be a veteran who beats young fighters on the rise.
Yeah, definitely dangerous.
Yeah.
Incomplete.
So big win for Manuwa that probably sets the UFC up right where they want with another solid headliner, because Anderson winning would not do that. Anderson does not have that kind of pull or style that is going to sell yet.
If they do Shogun and Manuwa in Brazil, that would draw.
Yeah. And that brings us to the co-main event then. Gunnar Nelson, Alan Jouban. Nelson with the club and sub. And, Nelson, his striking is still not the prettiest thing in the world. He still gets hit a lot, but he's so dangerous. Just unbelievably so.
Yeah. It's crazy, too. Like you're saying, he's not the most polished striker in the world, but he just has this knack for dropping dudes and choking them. And it's beautiful. Like I really thought that this was going to be a lot closer than it was. I mean, I really expected Jouban to really come out and let his strikes go, but he was way too respectful, in my opinion, on the feet.
Well, in the second, he started out putting it on Nelson. He snapped his head back. He was flurrying, and that's when Nelson was able to step in and really crack him. So,
well, like I think what it was is, he spent a good, basically the second part of the first round on his back.
Yeah,
gets to his corner, and his corner is like, "Hey, go forward. Stop moving backwards. Do not move backwards." So second round starts. Sure shit. Jouban comes forward like his corner asked, and then lands some good stuff, and then just starts backing up for like no apparent reason. And then that's when Gunnar came in and clipped him and
Well, I mean, I think the apparent reason is that Gunnar Nelson's takedown game, if you let Gunnar Nelson in around your hips in any way, his takedown game is just ferocious. He's got that Khabib thing where it doesn't really matter if he got a good entry or not. He's just going to find a way to pull you to the mat.
Yeah, but it's like when he backed up, there was no urgency in his backup.
Yeah.
Like it was just casually nonchalant. Like, let me just put my back up against the cage.
That's been a Jouban problem for a while. It's what got him cracked a few times in his fight against Mike Perry, who has much worse chasing footwork and is not nearly as diverse, or is, not the same fighter Nelson is. And it's It's just a problem that Joban's had. I mean, it got him knocked out by Albert Tumanov too. He does not create space well when he fights. He has problems cutting him or circling away and finding his way out of range.
Yeah, he definitely hangs around a little too much.
That brings us down to, and it continues Nelson's rise up the division. I don't know who he faces next in welterweight.
I was thinking maybe like Neil Magny. I think that's an excellent fight.
Yeah, Neil Magny would be a good fight. Young Kim is up there too.
Even Cowboy, even though Cowboy's coming off a loss, that still interests me.
Yeah, there are a couple fights up there that Nelson could get. It's probably best for the UFC's plan since Nelson's he's been a hardcore fan favorite. Joban is too, but Nelson's had that aura around him for years now that the UFC is like going to be a future UFC star, and he's finally seems like he's marching towards a title shot.
And so quietly too, so stoic. I love it. He doesn't talk shit. He just shows up and goes to work.
So before that, we got to our depressing letdown for hometown fans of the night when Marlon Vera knocked out Brad Pickett. Pickett probably on his way to a winning the first 2 rounds, but also by the time that 3rd round came, Pickett really faded hard out of that fight in the 3rd round. It wasn't just like Vera landed that one kick, but he was really just pot-shotting Pickett for all the 3rd round.
Yeah, Pickett was doing so well. Like he got the takedown early. Like he really looked like he was going to pull on all his experience. Like he's not just going to come out and swing for the fences, like actually, put it all together and show the progress he's made along his career. But damn, like he even dropped Cheeto in the 1st round with the left hook. But man, he just petered out and had nothing left for the 3rd, started eating shots. Bam, head kick comes, sat him down. Ref stops in.
Yeah.
Oh, man. What a way to go out. But
yeah,
at least he like called it before this fight.
Yeah, I feel bad for Pickett because, he seems like a really good dude, and you never want to see somebody go out like that in front of their hometown crowd. But it's also, it's fighting. Like, you don't really get a guaranteed nice exit, And Pickett's been on the losing end of things for a while. They set him up with a fight he could win, and he lost it. And for Vera, like, I have to feel really happy for him. It sucks that the fans were booing him out there. He's kind of a dirty fighter. He's done some like glove grabbing, hit some illegal up kicks in this fight.
But the ref was just like, play through it. Who cares? Illegal up kick? What?
But he's also, he's got a really sick kid that he's trying to take care of and raise money for. He needs this win. He needs this win a lot more than Brad Pickett does, frankly. For Brad Pickett, it's like you want to ride out on that ego boost, but Marlon Vera's out there counting quarters, So
yeah, look, you make a great point. It's like if Pickett has to go out that way, let it be, against someone who really needs it. And that's, that's Cheeto Vera. And honestly, he won the crowd over. Like they were booing him until he got on the mic and was like, nah, no disrespect here. Like get that shit out of here. Like, I was a kid watching Brad Pickett. Like I'm a fan. Like I had the honor to be a part of his last fight. Show him some respect, show me some respect. And he probably won a whole bunch of fans by doing that, which is exactly what he needs.
I hope so, because I feel bad for Pickett, but I feel bad for Vera too. Like, I'm glad he won, and I feel like he shouldn't get hate just for beating Pickett. If Pickett wanted to keep fighting, then that's on him. That brings us to a featherweight bout: Arnold Allen versus Makwan Amirkhani. Great fight. A lot of scrambling, some trash reffing. Terrible stand-ups. I don't know about you, but do you feel? I kind of feel like Amirkhani got kind of screwed out of a win in that fight when the ref stood him up in the 3rd round. He was winning. He was on top. He had good position. Ref stood him up, and that allowed Allen to go in and get his own takedown, do his own work. Oh, seem to have lost you here. Can't hear you. You're frozen. Hopefully coming back. Anyway, so yeah, it was, Amir Khani is a great athlete, really dynamic fighter, really fun fighter to watch, but doesn't necessarily seem to have a lot of process in how he goes about his game. Really depends on being able to throw big dynamic moves out there, like obviously starting every round with the really dynamic moment of offense. And he really kind of tires himself out. And he eventually wore Allen out too. I mean, to his own credit, but Allen was able to fight through it and, due to a bit of fortuitous reffing in there, pick up the win. So I don't know. It's a tough loss for Amir Khani to take, but a good win for Arnold Allen. What are your thoughts on it?
I thought it was exciting. Definitely a gnarly prospect versus prospect matchup. It was exactly what I was expecting. A lot of crazy scrambles, a couple rookie mistakes here and there that would lead to giving up position. I mean, everything you expect from up-and-comers. And I was surprised at how fresh Arnold Allen was throughout the whole event. He seemed to really have, but I think he's well composed beyond his years, like well composed. And that could be because his father was a fighter, so it's he's been doing it basically his whole life. But man, I'm excited to see both of these guys, and I wouldn't even be against seeing a rematch somewhere in the near future. I think they both really showed up.
Do you think the reffing cost Amir Khani that fight?
You mean like the stand-ups?
Yep.
No, not at all. I think like if it's down to like a referee deciding a fight, I mean, you obviously didn't do enough to win. Like I will never like blame a stand-up for that. Obviously you weren't busy enough.
On the cards, it didn't cost him because two judges gave Allen both the first and second round. So the trash stand-up in the third did not cost Amir Khani that fight. He would have lost it anyway, even if he'd won that third round.
I gave Allen the first and the third.
Yeah, I thought that. I really honestly thought every round could have gone either way. So it was just a really impossibly close fight to score.
I think the difference makers were at the end of the first and the third. Allen really turned it up. Like he did things to solidify the round.
Yeah.
I think the first one he just landed a bunch of strikes, and then at the third he finished by taking the back and had a rear naked choke locked up. So that was like the closing moments of the round, kind of a lasting impression, put the stamp on the round a bit, and I think that's what got him the victory.
Yeah, Allen, a good step up for Allen might be somebody like Mizuto Hirota, another seasoned vet who's looked good in his last fight, and somebody that Allen can compete with and go rounds with. So
I'm happy with anybody, really.
Yeah. Maybe Rick Glenn, too, considering Glenn might be a better one, considering Glenn's coming off that big win over Barao.
Oh, man. I feel like Glenn's might be a little too experienced right now. But maybe. Glenn's smooth, man. Glenn is smooth. Like, deceptively smooth.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because a lot of the division is kind of booked ahead of Allen, or the people that are coming off losses. Guys like Teruto Ishihara and Russell Doan and Daniel Hooker and Hakran Diaz. So.
Yeah, it's a lot of divisions are actually kind of booked up.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's why so many people struggle getting fights.
Partially, yeah. That brings us to a lightweight bout. Joe Duffy, Reza Madadi. I do not understand how Duffy did not get at least one 10-8 round in the second or third round. I scored it. I gave him both 10-8s. Honestly, I cannot even think of a strike Madadi landed in either of those rounds. Like, I know he landed a couple, but it was only a couple. I don't like even before the new shift to 10-8 rounds, I don't understand how you give Joe Duffy the same 10-9 that you give Timothy Johnson.
Yeah. Madadi really, outside of like some takedowns in the first, he almost seemed defensive the rest of the fight. Rounds 2 and 3, completely just bleeding all over the place and getting peppered by Duffy. Duffy was just happy to keep Madadi at the end of his punches, and didn't do anything too crazy. It was definitely a smart fight by Duffy, and severely dominant, which he needed. He definitely needed a dominant win considering his contractual situation.
Yeah, so. I think the hand speed of Duffy just got in Madadi's head to the point that he didn't feel like he could pull the trigger on anything without eating a shot, and he didn't feel like, and then he couldn't wrestle because he didn't have the setups to enter for takedowns, and he even tried late in that fight, but Duffy was out there shaking him off like Anderson Silva, just pushing him down and out of the way. It was pretty stuff. So huge win for Duffy, and I really hope it gets him a new contract. I hope the UFC looks at actually like, this is somebody we should keep, because afterward too, I thought the relationship was too soured for it to be repaired. I thought it sounded like Duffy was just like, I want to leave. I don't care what you offer me. I'm done. I don't want to work with you. But after this win, he's out there saying he'd love to stay in the UFC if they can offer him the right contract. So hopefully this gets that done.
It definitely should. I mean, you have Conor McGregor in like waiting, and that would be huge. Like, you can probably do that one in Ireland, and it would just be ridiculous. So they should definitely sign him. And if they don't, Bellator will be right there to pick him up, like, without question.
Yeah, he's a kid who can draw eyes, and he's got a great flashy style. He's he's fun to listen to. He shows up, and when he wins, he's dominating. Just a really pretty fighter to watch. So
he did give up those early takedowns, which were, that still raises some questions.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, he's not unbeatable. He's not like some unbeatable super fighter, but it just, if you have a fighter who's that pretty to watch fight, and who has the personality, and who has all the things that you could sell around him there, and you're still gonna let him walk out the door, it's like, well, who are you really looking for at this point? Like, if it's not Joe Duffy, what do you want?
Where would you rank Joe Duffy? Top 20?
Yeah, he's definitely the top 20. He kind of, I would say that he's probably, given how close and tough his fight with Dustin Poirier was, I would say that he's top 15. I don't have any trouble ranking him in the top 15 of that division. I mean, would you pick Evan Dunham to beat him? And Evan Dunham's a top 15 fighter.
I would not pick Evan Dunham to beat him, but I think everybody else can take him down. Except for Ally Aquinta. I don't even know why he's even ranked, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Duffy deserves a spot in the top 15, and getting taken down is different than losing the fight. I mean, Madadi is actually a good wrestler, and
I guess I should say it like this. I wouldn't pick him over anybody else besides Evan Dunham.
Maybe. That's
at least in the top 15 right now. Maybe Trinaldo. Yeah. But
I think Duffy can win. I think he's competing at a high enough level that I have no problem with him being ranked that high. And maybe there are some especially bad wrestling matchups that will dominate him, but that's the nature of the game. That brings us to the Francis Barbosa Darren Stewart light heavyweight fight. This fight sucked. Darren Stewart started fast and hard, gassed out, and Barbosa is a poor enough offensive creating fighter that he could not even take over the fight against a gassed out Stewart. He just kind of drifted his way to a win that I frankly scored the fight for Stewart, and I don't care enough to complain about the decision. You got more than a minute's worth of words to say about it?
Nope. I think when you said it sucked, you should have put a period right there and moved on.
Yeah. Okay. And that brings us to a heavyweight bout. Timothy Johnson, Daniel Omalanchuk. Fight also kind of sucked. Johnson won because he's bigger. They're both tough. They both have a reasonable amount of cardio for the heavyweight division. And Johnson's still not a great wrestler, and Omalanchuk is still not a knockout striker. And so you got two tough heavyweights who can't dominate in their specialty, and you get a slow fight where the bigger dude wins.
Yeah. It's like if Omalanchuk had a bigger gas tank to sustain his early first half a round style, I mean, he would be a force. But he's just too damn big to be leaping around like that. You can't sustain that for 15 minutes straight.
Yeah.
And Johnson, he definitely has a lot of work to do. Like, I guess trying to figure out what he wants to do in there. You know what I mean? It definitely seems like he's down to strike, he's down to grapple, but there's no concise, I'm coming out to do this. And if I have to adjust, I'll go there, but this is the game plan. I'm going to stick to the game plan instead of kind of allowing his opponent to dictate what kind of fight it is. But I really liked how honest Johnson was after the fight. He really says that he needs to find another gear before he can break into the top 10. And I thought it was pretty real.
It would be nice and realistic if it weren't heavyweight. Like, it's like, yeah, that's, I'm glad you have goals, but Timothy Johnson, you are currently ranked 12. And the only people ahead of you are Alexander Volkov, who you almost beat and may have beaten, in fact, and Stefan Struve, who I would pick Johnson over in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and then you got Travis Brown at number 9.
Yeah, Timothy Johnson may already be a top 10 ranked heavyweight. He's going to have to aim a little higher.
Yeah. So. But, man, does it get crazy when you get there to number 7. Mark Hunt, Derek Lewis, Francis Ngannou. Yikes.
Yeah. There's still some good heavyweights. There's enough good heavyweights for it to be fun. But, he doesn't need anything more than he's got to be top 10. He just needs a lot more to be successful as top 10.
Or to be dominant,
yeah.
I think. To really, make a statement and get out of these close fights.
At the very least, he seems like a heavyweight who's been fighting his way into shape, and he's getting closer to that now that he can do it full time. He actually had some abs. There was a couple of you could see some abs sticking out there, 1 or 2.
The ab and a half, yeah, man. It's a good look for him, and the mustache is still on point.
All right, and that brings us to Leon Edwards, Vicente Luque. Good fight. I thought. Edwards stayed tough and took over as Luke got tired. Luke had the advantage early, was pressuring well, throwing with power, won the first round, and then just hit a wall hard after that. I don't even know how tired he was because he ended the fight strong. He ended the fight flurrying and rallying, but he looked like he just checked out of it in the second round.
I think it was when Rocky landed the southpaw liver kick that really zapped Luque. He started backing up, and he really was kind of just one step behind after that, I feel like. And Rocky didn't let up. He kept going to the body. And I thought he showed a lot of poise in there against someone who is fundamentally sound. Like Luque, he's a killer. I think he finished 4 straight guys, mixing it up on the feet or on the ground. So I think Rocky, he fought a really smart fight. And I think Luque did as best as he could, but after eating those body shots, I mean, it's hard to come back from that.
Yeah, and I mean that's also putting Edwards on a bit of a run. He had a setback against Kamaru Usman not that long ago, but now he's 5-2 in the division, and you're starting to climb into. I know he called out Don Cerrone, and that's not often likely to happen, except that Cerrone usually wants to fight every 2 months, so you just need people for Cerrone to fight. But it is putting him into, Santiago Ponzinibbio is ranked 14, and there's nothing wrong with the Leon Edwards Santiago Ponzinibbio fight.
Yeah, I like that. I think he should definitely fight a ranked opponent next, especially off the strengths of his last 2 wins with Tumenov and Luque. Those are legitimate wins.
Yeah.
Legitimate wins. So I think that's a great idea. I think that's a swell idea.
Absolutely. Before that, highlight of the whole card, Mark Diakiese just cold cock Timu Packalin. And, DKSA, I realize people are like, oh, it's a hype train fighter. People have been talking him up, and then they see him in the UFC, and he's struggled a little with some guys that aren't as good as him, and he hasn't found the consistency to his game. But man, when he's clicking, and he's now that ATT, things look like they're clicking. Dude is a scary fighter.
Yeah, he is. He really is. And this is how scary he is. So, he's like backing up, and Packalu's like, oh, let me throw a combination and come forward. Boom! Gets cracked with a perfectly placed right hand. And like as he's falling, you just see Diakese like smiling. Like before he hits the ground, he's full on, like he knows. Man, that dude is scary. What a man.
Well, and he hit a hook kick to Packalin's jaw and then a spinning back kick to Packalin's body before that. And just like tossing these out there. He's always had this thing where he'll throw a lot of silly shit, just trying to like see what's going on. But I think working with a better team, somebody like ATT, they can really put the polish on his timing and his distance control. And you see that show up in the cage where suddenly that silly shit lands. It's like, he's landing everything flush. And a dude who's as fast and as powerful as he is, you don't necessarily have to have all the cleanest interconnecting, like, little technical parts if you can just throw crazy shit that lands like that. I mean, we've seen that with Yair Rodriguez, too, where you're like, there's no semblance of a real boxing game in here. But when you can just throw spinning wheel kicks for 15 minutes straight, that doesn't necessarily matter all that much.
Well, what I like to see was, he came out and he's throwing this spinning shit. But what actually put his opponent away was just a cross.
Yep.
Just a straight right hand. Nothing flashy about it. Just textbook right hand. Yep. And I think that is beautiful. Like you come out, get your opponent thinking like, what in the fuck is going on? Spinning, twirling kicks, and then just a straight right down the pipe. And that's the end of it. Man, this guy has potential.
Yeah. Really, sky's the limit. Can you consider too how good a wrestler he's been in the UFC and like how consistent and adaptable his top game has been? Just taking Frankie Perez on and out wrestling him for a couple of rounds. He's got a lot. There aren't a lot of gaps in his game when he's got his head in it. I'm excited to see it. So
yeah, and hopefully he can continue improving with his takedown defense.
Yeah,
because he has been on his back a few times that were questionable.
Oh, yeah. He gets really over. He treats his opponents like they can't hurt him. I mean, that's the biggest flaw is he walks in there like nobody can do anything to him. And then somebody's in on his hips. And he's like, oh, wait, how did this happen? But if he's got his head in the fight, I don't think there's anything he can't do. My
only criticism is his on the mic trash talk is terrible. Like it's absolutely terrible. Like god awful. But you know what? He makes up for it in the cage. So.
He's excited, at least. He's always excited. Before that, we had a middleweight fight. Brad Scott Askham. Back and forth. Couple middleweights slugging it out. Fun fight. I kind of thought Askham might have won it, maybe. But, I mean, he got one of his legs just totally chipped away from him. And then it was kind of disappointing a little bit to see Brad Scott really not have any answer to like take over a fight against an opponent who's obviously on one wheel. Yeah, it was so weird. I feel like I scored it for Scott. I gave it to Brad Scott 29-28. I gave him the first and the second. But it seemed like Scott's game plan was to work the leg kicks to set up the punches. And that's what he was doing. But what happened was he injured Askham and kind of wasn't expecting it and was just like, well, shit, well, what do I do now? For one, Askham switched stances. And then he was like, well, do I keep attacking the leg and make that the game plan and try to take him out with that? Or do I just keep working my hands? And it was just weird. And Askham was just like, well, if you're not going to know what you're going to do, I'm just start tagging you. And like he rallied back in the third and started landing volume and made it debatable. The second round was even close, but I gave it to Scott just because of the damage. There was that moment where his knee buckled and he backed up.
I scored that as damage, and that to me is more important than any other kind of scoring metrics you have. So I gave
I'm fine with that. I just feel like Askham actually outworked and outlanded Scott, even on the busted leg in round 2. So I kind of felt like he could have gotten that round, but it's a debatable round. I'm fine scoring it. Just like, well, your injury is the absolute category of damage. Like, what more damage can you have than injury? So that's fine.
Yeah, but what a tough son of a bitch to fight through that. I wonder what actually happened.
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of looked like his knee blew out, but he also had a huge lump on his shin, apparently. So it could be a broken shin.
It could be multiple things.
Yeah. Either way, really fun fight. And then before that, we had a women's bantamweight fight to open the card. Lena Landsberg, Lucy Pudilova. Saw a lot of people were mad about this decision. I was not. Did you have any any reason to score it for Pudilova?
No, because the first round for me was so close that I gave Pudilova the third, and that was even close, and I gave Landsberg the second. I think Pudilova did the more damage, and that's why people are a little, upset about it. But Landsberg face, like, she had the vagina eye. You know what I mean? Like, put some panties on that shit. Like, her eye was like, it was not good.
Oh Lord! All right, I'm gonna try to recover from that metaphor, but I mean, yeah, it's one of those things that, like, Pudilova, by the stats, did outland Landsberg by a bunch, mostly in that third round, but just overall. But I thought Landsberg landed the harder shots in round 1, even if Pudilova may have outlanded her with volume. And then there's no real debate that Landsberg won round 2, and that round 3 was anything other than a 10-8. People were like, oh, it should have been a 10-8 based on damage. It's like, getting cut open, it should not just give you a 10-8 round. A 10-8 round, I would have argued a 10-8 round looks like Joe Duffy, Reza Madadi round 2 or especially round 3, where you literally have one fighter who's landing all of the strikes in the round. All of them. That was not Pudilova-Landsberg. Pudilova still got hit a lot. They were both gassed. It was a funky, ugly fight. And you can't win. You can't depend on it. You're not getting robbed if you only clearly win one round. You're really not.
And I mean, kudos to Landsberg for declaring Pudilova the champion, or not the champion, the winner of the fight. I thought that was a lot of class. But Pudilova was just like, I don't even think I know what you're saying, so I'm just gonna stank face you.
Yeah, Pudilova even tweeted out, I sent that bitch to the hospital. So apparently whatever she's on, she was not feeling Landsberg's love. So
well, this was a rematch.
It was.
They might as well fight again. Why not?
They might as well, honestly. At the bottom of that division, they're just going to be fodder for other women to beat up. So I have no trouble if they want to fight each other one more time.
Oh, man. The vagina eye.
Oh, stop it. God. All right. On that note, I'm going to close. Let's see. Manuwa, he comes away with the big winner because he's got the momentum to face the top 5. Gunnar Nelson has really asserted himself in the top 10 at welterweight. And Joe
Pickett
Duffy
retired.
Pickett retired. Hopefully Joe Duffy bought himself another UFC contract. You can find me on Twitter at TheZaneSimon. You can find Eddie on Twitter at TheEddieMercado. You can find both of us over at BloodyElbow.com. Give this video a thumbs up over on YouTube down there. That helps us a lot. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, MMANation.com. That's DOTCOM. That's where you get all the latest Bloody Elbow shows, videos, analysis, all that good stuff. We will be back next week with the MMA Depressed Us, If I Did It, Heavy Hands, Knuckle Up, all that. It's not a fight week, so we won't have any big cards to cover, but we'll still have plenty of entertainment coming at you. So tune in, and we will see you next time. Thanks, everyone.